Do you believe perfection exists? Well, you're looking right at it. Don't worry guys, I don't charge. Not the first time anyway. But seriously, what does perfection mean to you? It could be anything. The perfect book, the perfect dress, the perfect man. I'm just kidding. Those don't exist. And if you're one of the people who thought of their grandma's perfect Thanksgiving dinner when I asked this question, I want you to think about the near lethal dose of butter you probably ingested that night at her house. So is that it? Is butter the secret to perfection? I wish I could say yes. The truth is, perfection simply does not exist. That's right. Yet, millions of people across the globe identify themselves as perfectionists. People who strive for perfection in every little thing they do. So then why, according to Dr. Susan Albers, best-selling author and psychologist, do these same people struggle from debilitating mental disorders like depression, anxiety, and OCD? Clearly, this standard of perfection we place on ourselves comes with a major cost: our happiness. So why do we, as a society so focused on progress, still push this unachievable standard onto ourselves? Why do we encourage this toxic perfectionism? To get to the bottom of these questions, let's first talk about what perfectionism is and who it affects. Next, we'll take a look at what its cause and its implications are. And finally, try to learn to be okay with being imperfect. But how can we talk about perfectionism without knowing what it is? Simply put, the definition of perfectionism is the refusal to accept any standard short of perfection. But I think we all know that the true definition of perfectionism runs much deeper than just this. Author Michael Law pens a definition that I personally admire, which states that, at its root, perfectionism isn't really about a deep love of being meticulous. It's about fear. Fear of making a mistake. Fear of disappointing others. Fear of failure. Fear of success. Notice how often the word fear is associated with perfectionism? What starts out as a seemingly innocent love for good, qualitable work eventually morphs into a deadly fear of creating something that's less than flawless. Being perfect isn't an achievable goal, yet most of us carry the weight of it on our shoulders. So when does it all start? Scarily enough, as early as childhood. Up to 30% of children and adolescents report signs of what psychologists call maladaptive perfectionism. Not only that, but according to mental health organization Newport Academy, these numbers are only rising, as we've seen a 33% increase in the last 3 decades alone. This brings me to my second point. How does one become a perfectionist? Is it an acquired trait, or are we just born with it? Well, the answer is both. Although perfectionism can be passed down through traits of a family, it is fostered by expectations. And teenagers, who are arguably at the most pivotal point in their lives, are the most susceptible to these expectations, whether they come from peers, parents, or just society in general. But the last 30 years have played an especially interesting role in raising the level of these expectations on teenagers. All thanks to one thing and one thing only. Everyone, give it up for social media. In the past, who you got compared to was limited to the people you actually knew. Now, you get compared to anyone, anytime, anywhere. Let me give you an example. A couple days ago, I was watching Young Sheldon with my mom, which, if you didn't know, is a show about a child genius growing up in rural Texas among a family that doesn't always understand him. 5 minutes into the episode, my very Indian mom turns to me and says in very Indian fashion, "See, he has that fire to learn burning within him. He has that passion for education. And you? Mom, Sheldon is a child genius. He went to university at 11. I think we're all beginning to see, other than the injustices of being compared to Sheldon Cooper, how social media has drastically altered the scope of perfectionism-caused mental illness. The weight of these expectations is one that only gets heavier as time goes on and corrodes us from the inside, leaving behind a husk of what once was. This is what perfectionism does to a person. But I can't live like this anymore. I can't watch myself suffocate under the weight of these tremendous burdens that will end up consuming me. I want to learn to be imperfect. I want to learn to be flawed. I want to make mistakes, and I want to try my best. And it won't be perfect, but it'll be enough. So let's walk through this final step together, and hopefully learn to be okay with being imperfect. A single browser search will tell you that this task is much easier said than done. Practice self-acceptance, make mistakes, forgive yourself. Sounds straightforward enough, but is it really? If you're looking this up, chances are you're already too deep in for something as abstract as self-acceptance. So what can you do? Start to stop yourself for a moment and think. Often, perfectionism manifests as not just one thing, but a whirlwind of behaviors. Do you find yourself struggling to complete tasks on time? Or hesitating before you make a decision that should be easy? Or maybe you find yourself wanting to live the lives of the people you see online? Or do you find yourself saying yes to every little request that comes your way, even if you want to say no? These are all signs of a potential perfectionist, which is why it is so important to identify them. Stop and think. Do my teachers really care that I spent 8 hours writing this essay? Do my friends really care if I don't help them with their homework this one time? And do I really need to spend 30 minutes picking out what ice cream flavor I want to get? The answer to the last one is yes, by the way. It's important. Things won't be easy, but you'll be free. Don't be surprised when you find that being perfect is often just as rewarding as being good enough. Be spontaneous. Keep in mind that no decision you make is wrong, just different. And finally, if life gets too hard, don't be afraid to ask others for help, because you're not weak. Only the strongest people can admit when they need help. So, what does perfectionism mean to me, you ask? Well, to me, the answer doesn't lie in a book, a dress, or a man. Although someone might want to look into that last one. To me, true perfection lies in our flaws, our mistakes, and what makes us, us.
Would you